Have you ever hit the point where you said, God, I've done everything I can and it's still not enough? Maybe you've led the meeting, you've sent the emails, you've prayed the prayers, and it just feels like nothing is moving. It's not that you're lazy, you're not faithless, you're just tired of swinging a sword that doesn't seem to land. If that's you, then today's message is for you. Because I want to talk about what happens when God fights for you. Not when you're strong, not when you're on a winning streak, but when you're backed into a corner and the odds against you are absolutely, utterly ridiculous. When the enemy is actually mocking you, but God fights for you. Let's go back to one of the boldest moments in the Old Testament. You have King Hezekiah. He's a good man. He's a reformer, a leader who tried to turn his people back towards God. And then out of nowhere, he's surrounded. The Assyrian Empire, led by King Sennacherib, rolls up with 185,000 troops. This is the ancient world's version of a nuclear bomb. They send out a general, Rabshakeh, to stand outside Jerusalem's walls and to mock them. He literally shouts in Hebrew so everyone can understand, "Don't let Hezekiah deceive you. No God has ever saved any nation from our king, and you're next." In fact, just this morning, I was listening to my audio Bible, and I was in 2 Chronicles as I was getting ready for the day. And here's what I listened to from 2 Chronicles 34, starting in verse 5. We read that Hezekiah worked hard. He repaired all the broken sections of the wall. He built towers on it. Talks about him letting the water flow. He built another wall outside that one. He reinforced the terraces, the city of David. He also made large numbers of weapons and shields. Verse 6, he appointed military officers over the people. He assembled them before him in the square at the city gate and encouraged them with these words, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged because of the king of Assyria and the vast army with him, for there is a greater power with us than with him. With him," with Sennacherib, "is only the arm of flesh, but with us is the Lord our God to help us and to fight our battles." And again, I'm reading from the text here. And the people gained confidence from what Hezekiah, the king of Judah, said. Verse 9, later when Sennacherib, king of Assyria, and all of his forces were laying siege to Lachish, he sent his officers to Jerusalem with this message for Hezekiah, king of Judah, and for all the people of Judah who were there. This is what Sennacherib, king of Assyria, says. "On what are you basing your confidence? What that you remain in Jerusalem under siege? When Hezekiah says, 'The Lord our God will save us from the hand of the king of Assyria,' he's misleading you to let you die of hunger and thirst. Did not Hezekiah himself remove this God's high places and altars, saying to Judah and Jerusalem, 'You must worship before one altar and burn sacrifices on it'? Do you not know what I and my predecessors have done to all the peoples of the other lands? Were the gods of those nations ever able to deliver their land from out of my hand? Who of all the gods of these nations that my predecessors destroyed has been able to save his people from me? How then can your God deliver you from my hand? Now do not let Hezekiah deceive you and mislead you like this. Do not believe him, for no God of any nation or kingdom has been able to deliver his people from my hand or the hand of my predecessors. How much less will your God deliver you from my hand?" The text continues, verse 16. Sennacherib's officers spoke further against the Lord God and against his servant Hezekiah. The king also wrote letters ridiculing the Lord, the God of Israel, and saying this against him: "Just as the gods of the peoples of the other lands did not rescue their people from my hand, so the God of Hezekiah will not rescue his people from my hand." Then they called out in Hebrew to the people of Jerusalem who were on the wall to terrify them and to make them afraid in order to capture the city. They spoke about the God of Jerusalem as they did about the gods of all the other peoples of the world, the work of humans' hands. And I mean, that's what our enemy does, right? I'm finished with the Bible reading now. He loves to shout your fears in your own language. He knows exactly which buttons to press. You're never, ever going to get out of debt. Your kid is way too far gone, way too rebellious. Your church will never recover from that. You're just not leadership material. Your business will never succeed. And Hezekiah, he does something powerful. He doesn't grab his sword. He puts on sackcloth. He runs to the temple. He lays that letter, the physical letter of threat, before the Lord, and he says, "Lord, look, see what they're saying about you." And God responds through Isaiah, "He shall not come into this city, for I will defend this city and save it for my sake and for my servant David's sake." That night, one angel, just one angel of God, wipes out 185,000 Assyrian soldiers. Boom, game over. God wins. Now here's where it gets interesting. We love that story. We quote it, we post it, we talk about it. Most of us forget what Hezekiah did before the miracle. He didn't just sit back and say, "Well, hey, God's got this." He rebuilt the wall. He strengthened the army. He dug a tunnel for water so the city could survive a siege. He worked, and then he prayed. See, faith isn't laziness wrapped in religious language. Faith is sweat plus surrender. Let me put it this way. If you're a pastor, you still have to prepare your sermon. If you're a teacher, you still have to plan your lessons. If you're a business owner, you still have to balance the books. If you're a parent, you still have to discipline your kids. But once you have done all that you can, you hand it over to God. And that's what he starts doing, what only he can do. Because there's a difference between working for victory and working from victory. And I want to talk now about 3 specific arenas where God is still fighting for you. Let's make this very real. Number 1 would be leadership battles. If you're leading anything, a church, a company, a classroom, a family, you've got all these invisible wars happening all around you. And sometimes they become very visible, actually. You're making decisions that affect lives. You're trying to build something that lasts. And sometimes, no matter how strategic you are, it just feels like resistance is everywhere. That's when you have to remember, leadership is warfare. You're not the general. You're just a soldier. And so am I. Let God do the leading. You take orders, but not ownership. When you kneel before God in prayer, you're submitting your leadership to the one who already sees the battlefield. He knows what you can't see. He sees the gossip before it even starts. He sees the opportunity before it ever appears. If God can close the mouths of lions for Daniel, he can silence critics for you. If he could part the seas for Moses, the Red Sea, he can open doors in your business. If he can knock down Jericho's walls, he can crumble the barriers that are all around your marriage right now. A second way that God fights for you, family battles. Let's talk parenting for a second. Sometimes being a Christian parent feels like raising kids in a spiritual hurricane. TikTok, peer pressure, identity confusion, moral gray zones. It's a lot. You don't always get everything right. You know? You're trying, you're praying, you're reading, you're setting boundaries, but you still feel like you're losing ground. That's when you have to remember you're not just raising kids, you're raising arrows. Psalm 127 tells us that. And arrows are meant to fly further than the archer ever will. So when you pray for them, you're not just asking for good behavior, you're asking for divine trajectory. God fights for your family in ways that you'll never see. When your daughter's tempted and suddenly something makes her walk away, when your son's about to make a mistake and his car won't start, that's not coincidence. I think that's probably providence, right? God fighting for you. The third arena in which God fights for us is business battles. Let's talk to the entrepreneurs, the professionals, the small business owners. Sometimes you feel like you're grinding while everyone else is gliding. You tithe, you work hard, you try to do business ethically, and you watch people cheat their way to success. And it's easy to think, God, are you even paying attention? But when God fights for you, he plays the long game. He's not just blessing you with a sale, he's building you into someone who can handle the influence that sale might someday bring. So don't despise the small things. Don't despise slow seasons. The battles you fight in private become the victories he multiplies for you in public. Let me get really personal with you. There have been seasons in my life where I tried to fight everything myself. I tried to fix the problem, fix the person, fix the plan. And every time, if I'm really honest, I hit the same wall. Exhaustion. Total frustration. Until, and I didn't do this every time, but sometimes I would start to realize I wasn't the one who was supposed to win the battle. I was just supposed to stand still. God told Moses, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. That's probably the hardest command for a leader, for an entrepreneur, for a business owner, to stand still, because it feels like doing nothing. But in reality, it's doing the most powerful thing imaginable. It's trusting the unseen hand of God. Standing still and praying and letting God do the work. If you're in that place today, don't quit, don't panic, don't manipulate. Just stand. Do the next right thing and let God handle the invisible war that you can't even see. When Sennacherib mocked Hezekiah, he didn't just mock a man, he was mocking God. And that's what your enemy's doing too, right? Every time fear tells you you won't make it, in a sense, they're mocking God. Every time doubt whispers, hey, your prayers don't matter, that's mocking God. Every time the enemy tells you this is impossible, God says, look, I specialize in the impossible. So as you lead, as you teach, as you parent, as you build your business, remember this: you fight from victory, not for it. You labor under grace, not under pressure. And the same God who fought for Hezekiah still fights for you. So here's what I'd encourage you to do this week. Write down the biggest battle that you're facing. Just name it. Put it in your phone, write it on a piece of paper. And then, like Hezekiah, lay that before the Lord. Because when you let God fight your battles, he doesn't just win for you, he teaches you who he is in the process. And sometimes that's the greatest victory of all. Look, Christian leaders, you're not alone. God is still fighting for you. And God is the ultimate winner. Thanks for your time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe give it a thumbs up or subscribe to the channel. Share it with a friend of yours. And I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful day rejoicing in Jesus.